for their commitment to keeping students warm and safe. As you probably know, it is never an easy decision to close schools, as we recognize that schools provide much more than a simple place of learning. We also know that we provide the safest environment and for all, and that needs to supersede even our instruction. So once again, I extend my heartfelt apology to the community, our staff, and our students, and we will do better. Now we're going to open it up to questions. Yeah.
You sent out that letter yesterday saying that the campuses had been diligently checked on Monday. Does it look like now, with the information that you have now, that those checks did not happen, or did not happen to the extent that they were supposed to end us up in a situation with so many schools closed?
No. The checks, every school on Monday was checked and were operational at that moment in time. So you're probably asking, so what happened? What happened was we made a human error in terms of non-manually overriding the system so that the boilers would run 24 hours in some of our schools. So that was an issue that we own, but when they visit, it was functioning, but then the system shut down because we forgot to manually override for some schools.
Are they always designed to be run for 24 hours, then take a break? What was the error?
Yeah, we programmed them for a schedule, in order to, the majority looks usually to turn off at 5 in the morning and then go for that period like to 10 o'clock. Because we knew of the conditions, we had given a directive that we wanted beginning on Friday to make sure that the system was functioning, and we did a check on Monday, and everything was functional, and nobody realized, and we own that. Nobody realized that some schools we had non-manually overridden the system.
So they worked, but they were not programmed, correct?
Correct.
So why do you need 2 days to go over everything if it's just a programming issue?
Great question. Because as a result of that error led to major issues in our infrastructure in terms of the boiler pipes breaking down. They completely froze. So we are right now sending technicians to every single campus to determine the magnitude of that.
Were these boilers not properly maintained beforehand?
We worked very diligently to ensure that every single school is safe and provide the appropriate learning environment. I do have to acknowledge that we have had deferred maintenance because of the situation of us being underfunded. And no excuse, but it is a reality when our basic allotment has not increased since 2019. The cost of inflation has risen dramatically. So we actually had, because of this situation, we were proactive as a result of the right sizing. We partner with several organizations. They're doing a full facility condition assessment of every single building so that we have accurate data that started before this is in process, it's not completed, so that we understand the lifespan of all our buildings and the infrastructure in them.
If 70% of the schools had heating issues, why, I think you have more than 90 campuses, why were only 31 kept out of school today or released early?
Because as of last night and early this morning, we had not identified those issues. Those issues surfaced. Some of them actually surfaced 9, 10, 4, 5 in the morning. So that's the reason why. So as soon as we knew, we made the decision.
And to be clear, no schools in the district will be open until all schools have heating?
Until Monday.
Until Monday.
we're going to address that. We need 2 days to assess the magnitude and get a technician in every single building to determine what are the root causes of the problem, if parts need to be replaced. So, yeah.
Doctor, aquí no podría decir lo que dijo al principio en español.
Todo lo que dije al principio.
Resumen está bien.
Bueno, primero gracias por venir. Lo que quería comunicar es que nosotros como sistema, el distrito escolar, tuvo un fallo en nuestros sistemas de calefacción a través de todo el distrito. En este momento hemos identificado que aproximadamente 70% de nuestras escuelas experimentaron fallos en el sistema de calefacción. De un rango en algunas escuelas fue un 20%, o sea que 1 o 2 salones de clase, en otro era más serio, que impidieron dar la calefacción que necesitaban nuestros alumnos y personal. Desafortunadamente, debido a esto, hemos tomado una decisión muy difícil, la cual es que vamos a cerrar las escuelas mañana y el viernes, porque necesitamos 2 días para identificar la causa de los fallos que nos pusieron en esta situación y también hacer todas las reparaciones debidas. Debido a la magnitud que es y como tenemos personal limitado, necesitamos 2 días para asegurarnos que esto esté bien y no vuelva a ocurrir en el futuro. Yo quiero que ustedes reconozcan que cerrar escuelas es una decisión muy, muy difícil y yo asumo toda la responsabilidad porque tenía información que no era válida o incorrecta y utiliza esa información para decidir mantener las escuelas abiertas. Pero tomamos esa decisión porque, como ustedes saben, el impacto de cerrar a una escuela no solo afecta a los alumnos, afecta a la familia y afecta al comercio de la ciudad. Pero déjeme ser claro, las condiciones que experimentaron nuestros alumnos, nuestro personal, no es aceptable. Y yo vuelvo a asumir la responsabilidad de eso y eso va a cambiar. Quiero también estar claro que hay muchas escuelas que trabajaron, operacionaron eficientemente durante estos 2 días. Pero nosotros no teníamos información válida en el momento debido para tomar mejores decisiones. Yo he tomado un tiempo para reflexionar y mirar a toda la infraestructura que causó esta situación, al igual que el personal involucrado en tomar decisiones indebidas o proveer información que no era válida. Quiero terminar para reconocer la gran labor que hicieron nuestros directores de escuela, nuestros maestros y el personal de apoyo en mantener a nuestros alumnos en condiciones buenas y a la misma vez proveer educación significativa. Nosotros reconocemos que la escuela es más que un lugar de aprendizaje, también es un lugar que provee un ambiente seguro para muchos de nuestros alumnos.
¿Qué fue lo que pasó, doctor?
The same question that you guys asked. So, lo que sucedió, muchos factores. Primero, es la primera vez en la cual tenemos temperatura tan baja que no están acompañadas de precipitación. Por eso, todos los distritos conjuntamente decidimos que las carreteras y autopistas estaban en buenas condiciones y no había un riesgo de poner a nuestro personal o a los alumnos. Decidimos mantenerla abierta. Pero en las otras ocasiones, cuando hemos tenido esta misma temperatura, también había precipitación y se cerraba la escuela. Entonces decidimos mantener las escuelas abiertas. Nosotros habíamos hecho una revisión de todos los planteles escolares el lunes y todos estaban reportando que todos estaban operacionados. El problema principal que ocurrió fue una falta, un error humano en el cual muchas escuelas, como 33% de las escuelas, no se reprogramaron para estar en funcionamiento la calefacción 24 horas al día. Normalmente se programan automáticamente para tenerla de 5 de la mañana como a 10 de la noche. Yo había dado una instrucción desde el viernes que teníamos que tenerla 24 horas al día porque sabíamos que lo que nos esperaba. Lamentablemente, solamente como un 60% de nuestras escuelas fueron reprogramadas. Al pasar eso, imagínate, se congelaron muchas de las tuberías y muchas de ellas no encendieron el martes. Nos dimos cuenta el martes, tomamos decisión basada a lo que teníamos ayer y cerramos 20 escuelas. La magnitud de esa no la comprendíamos porque no teníamos la información correcta.
So you've got the,
will
Yes.
students have to make up these days later on in the year?
So great question. So obviously it's not days, but it's instructional minutes that account for the Texas Education Agency. I'm here with Alejandra Lopez. She and I have spoken several times today. We will collaborate with the Alliance, with our district parent advisory committee, because this decision that impacts the calendar, impacts our family, impacts our staff. So we will make a collaborative decision. Also, the reason I can't categorically tell you if they're going to make it up is because we are in the process of analyzing every single school because we have multiple schedules. So we have to actually count the minutes and then make a determination of what our options. We have several options to address that, and we're ready to implement, but it is a conversation that I want to have jointly with the Alliance and with the parents who are represented in the District Parent Advisory Council.
Will teachers be paid for this time off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually we're asking teachers to do a teacher-directed day for the next 2 days with the first priority to do parent outreach, then lesson planning or reviewing data.
Sir, the SAISD bond from 2020 included HVAC replacements at, I believe, 30 campuses. Much of that work, according to your website, shows that it's been completed, including at some of the schools that were on today's list. Does that mean that these new HVAC systems failed? And if so, how much is this costing the district if you just put in these systems and they are apparently now broken and need of repair?
Great question. Some bond funds were used to fix our heating and AC system. And we know that some schools operated without any issues. And we also know that in some of them, it was just 10 or 20%, so one or two classrooms. So I want to be clear that those are also, we experienced some success. However, as I mentioned earlier, we are the oldest district in the city with an aging infrastructure, and we have had to defer maintenance because of our financial situation. So, as I said in Spanish right now, I also do believe that there are a few issues driving this, in that these are some of the coldest temperatures that we have experienced in recent years without precipitation. So in other instances, we had the same type of temperatures, so we had precipitation and we close. We close our buildings. When we made the decision, it's a joint decision that is made with Region 20, all the superintendents of Region 20. We had meetings on Sunday, we had meetings on Monday with the emergency department team from the city of San Antonio, the National Weather Service. We were told, which was accurate, that there was no precipitation, there was going to be no road closures, no flyovers, so we were not going to put our staff or our students in danger in that situation. So as you see, all district decided to open. So for us, being an old district and aging infrastructure, this really was the first real test of our system.
Superintendent, you mentioned human error to blame for this system failure. Doesn't each school have like a person monitoring each school? So about 30 people did not manually turn on the 24-hour system for the schools? So more than one person, is someone gonna get reprimanded, fired?
So there's going to be accountability measures, as I mentioned in my statements. We're looking at system issues. We're looking at personnel issues. We're still investigating what that happened. It does take the reprogramming some technicians to be able to do this. That's why we have given the directive last week. So we are researching, looking all the facts, and people will be held accountable, but also there are systemic issues that we need to address.
Can you give parents an idea of how old the buildings are? Since you were saying that the district is an older district with older schools.
It varies.
It varies, but we have schools over 100 years old.
And these are the schools that were closed, the 31 schools?
No, I mean, we saw impact in others as well. The magnitude, remember I told you the range goes from anywhere from 20% to 100% impact. So in some places was only the cafeteria. Other places was one classroom, which the principals were able to manage. And others, it was much more, on some cases, we're up to 100%, and that's why we had to close them. We also have buildings that have been renovated, but not completely. So we still have some new buildings. The sharing was old buildings.
Did you have pipes break because the boilers did not come on when they were supposed to, or were those pipes going to break because of the cold anyway?
Yes to both.
Okay, so you would have, even if the boilers were programmed correctly, you would have some pipes, right?
Yes.
And is that why you had to bring in bottled water?
Yes.
How many campuses do you think that we had to have bottled water at? Is that possible?
Tony, do you know? I don't know. We can get you that. We can get you that information. So yes, we had issues that pipe bursting that were not due to the issue of not having proper heating in the system. We had also some issues. We also had some issues in our schools that were not actually weather related to.
Para nuestra comunidad hispana, ya sé que ya lo dijo, pero ¿cómo afectará esto al calendario escolar?
Eso es lo que estamos analizando. Aquí estoy con la presidenta de la Alianza de San Antonio, que representa a todos los maestros y el personal de apoyo de nuestras escuelas. Nosotros, Alejandra López y yo, hemos hablado en 2 ocasiones durante el día. Vamos a determinar cuál es la mejor opción, si tenemos que impactar el calendario escolar. ¿Por qué? Porque no es una decisión muy sencilla, porque tenemos que involucrar primero a nuestro personal, a los padres, para tomar la decisión correcta. Tenemos varias opciones que tenemos que considerar antes de tomar la decisión. Además de eso, tenemos múltiples horarios en cada nuestra escuela. Entonces tenemos que, no son los días, porque el Estado de Texas, la agencia del Estado de Texas escolar, ya no cuenta días, sino cuenta minutos. Entonces estamos en el proceso de contar los minutos debido, y después tomaremos la decisión y entonces lo anunciaremos. Pero vamos a consultar con la alianza. Yo tengo un consejo de padres en la mesa directiva que también vamos a consultar con ellos antes de tomar una decisión final.
How many campuses does the district have, sir, just to make sure we have that?
95, 96.
Because some are co-located.
Yeah, some are
Okay, so
co-located.
98 schools on 95 campuses?
No.
Oh, thank you, sir.
No,
it's,
Teresa.
98 campus numbers on about 85 campuses.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
And the, so again, 31 campuses shut down today, even though closer to, it sounds like 70 of them would have had problems. Why not just release everybody early today rather than doing it piecemeal? Like some of the schools got added on of early release, like Lanier was early, for example. Why not just do that with all of them, as became clear this was a wider problem?
Yes, great question. We also have to ensure the safety of our students. We cannot dismiss students unless we contact every parent to make sure that they know, and we gave the parents the option that if not, we will keep the kids. The magnitude, those that were early released or closed, the magnitude of that problem was at the 100% capacity. In some cases, we only had the cafeteria, or we had 2 or 3 classrooms. So we consulted with our principals to make those decisions.
Did you consider remote learning options at all, or have you, coming out of COVID experiences, learned lessons to be able to implement that in situations like this?
Yes, we did consider that. We wanted to make sure that we give an opportunity to do a couple of things. First, parent outreach. We wanted to make sure that's the top priority that both Alejandra and I have identified. So we want our teachers and staff to contact parents, which gives us an opportunity to talk about the social emotional issues, get assessment data. So that's our priority. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure to give our teachers an opportunity to look at the data and plan much more impactful lessons, knowing that we were losing to school days.
So you decided that it wouldn't be as impactful to do remote learning then, or why did you decide not to do the remote?
I think because I wanted more apparent outreach first. First, because I do personally believe that, the families trusted us that they're going to send their kids to buildings that were warm, and so we have a lot to do in terms of the broken trust. But I want to be clear on one thing. The reason why we kept schools open, like my colleagues across the region, I visited many schools on Tuesday, and I heard from principals and parents, and even today, we heard from some parents that said, we understand. We are grateful. We are grateful that you kept the schools open, because even though it might be cold, in some cases, it's still warmer than what the kids would face at home. So those are things that we took into account. Listen, on yesterday, our attendance was 54%. Bad, but 54% of our students needed us to have our buildings open. Today, of the schools that were open, 70% of our students needed us to be open. And we need to be open to be deliver on the promise that we give our families, which is great environment, social emotional support, and meaningful and impactful learning.
We will be wrapping up the press conference soon. We'll be taking the last few questions.
I'm very needy. I don't speak boiler, and I know that you got a lot of campuses with a lot of different systems, but can you, for those of us who have no idea what boiler means, can you explain what the boiler does that caused us to be here today? Is that too much?
So interesting, you're asking me too. It's not my area. It's not my area expertise. So I'll start, and some of you probably have more experience. But the boiler is equivalent to the heating system.
Right.
So is the mechanism that we have in our building to ensure that we can deliver heat throughout the building.
Okay, so going back to the initial thing that you released when you said you had some system failures and boilers that were slow to heat the buildings and water issues related to burst pipes. To me, that sounds like all these buildings were allowed to go cold when cold was coming on.
Yeah, so remember what I said earlier. We knew that this was coming. We gave a directive to make sure that we were running our boilers, our heating system, 24 hours around the clock. The system has to be manually overridden because somebody has to go, and because it's programmed. As a result of that, we had some human error in where we did not do that for all our schools. So some of the schools we stopped, we are addressing that, we're looking into why did that happen. As a result, even though they were running on Monday, the system did shut down.
Was that the problem with all 70% of those campuses?
No, and 70%, we're actually looking at an organization that's going to be here with us tomorrow to see if there were issues with gas pressure. to. So help us diagnose. That's why we need these 2 days. We can't determine why in those places where we had programmed them and manually overridden them, why they did. Some of them still had issues.
So it was human error, and then sometimes
System
the
failures.
equipment just didn't work.
Yes.
What can you do to ensure this won't happen again to the families? It's, February is usually a cold month in Texas. You're going to get warmer weather next week, but what if this happens again?
So a couple of things that we are doing. First, we want to make sure that we address our data and information. So now we want to make sure that we have accurate information. As I mentioned earlier, we have done a facility condition assessment that we're about to complete, which tells us exactly what our trouble spots. We also have technicians in the next 2 days. That's why we needed 2 days. They're going to give a diagnosis. This organization that's going to be partnering with us and some others are going to actually test the gas pressure, look at the system. They will not do any boiler repair. They're going to give us our feedback in terms of determining that. So we are putting measures in place to make sure that this will not happen. I mean, we learned a lot from this lesson. This was a test, as I said earlier, a test for our system. And I think this will not happen again.
Will you have food service at the 96
Yes.
schools that are closed?
Yes, Jenny, I think Jenny is here. Jenny Arredondo is my Executive Director for Child Nutrition. Do you want to talk about the plans for meals?
Sure. So at all the campuses, we will be providing curbside meals, which is a model that we used during COVID. And we'll do that at all of our campuses to ensure that any of our students during this time that are in need of food will have it readily available. And it will be at all campuses so that it is in close proximity to homes and where they live.
What are the times for that?
Today we ran a distribution from 12 to 1. We did that basically because of outside temperatures. So we will work to keep it, I guess, within that lunch hour. We might extend it a little bit to be able to be more available to our families.
Does anybody put a dollar damage on this?
Not yet, but this is not about money and dollars. It's
really.
In terms of the damage is to our community, our staff, and our students. We did not deliver. That's my main concern. We're here for our students and our families. And again, I apologize to my students, my families. I know I personally let them down, and I take full responsibility, and we will make sure that this does not happen again. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
I don't know if any board member wants to. You're good? Alejandro, I think Alejandra wanted.
I do have something, yes, if that's okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Alejandra Lopez. I serve as president of the Alliance of Teachers and Support Personnel. I want to remind everyone that the difficulties that our schools face in ensuring appropriate temperatures for learning during acute crises caused by extreme weather are a direct result of the long-term systemic and chronic underfunding of public education in our state. While our governor holds increased school funding hostage and pushes unpopular school voucher programs, he ignores the real problem. Our public school districts need an increase in funding to bring our state in line with the rest of this country. Extreme weather events like the current cold spell are intensified and made more likely by climate change. And the events of this week serve as an important reminder that we must work to address climate change, not in some distant future, but now. Our union has been working with district leaders over the last 2 days to address issues school workers have faced in the classrooms across SAISD. It is clear that the majority of our buildings were not prepared to welcome staff and students yesterday, and we agree with the district plan to briefly pause instruction while the extreme conditions continue. School workers and students need warmth to safely engage in their work together, and too many of our schools cannot provide an appropriate level of that warmth this week. And as we have heard from Dr. Aquino, a plan is being put in place to ensure not only that we remedy the current situation, but that this does not happen again. In closing, I would also like to recognize the commitment and dedication of all of our teachers and support staff over the last 2 days, especially the work of our nutrition staff continuing to provide meals to our students and our maintenance members who have been working tirelessly to address this ongoing crisis. Thank you.
So on behalf of the board, I just want to assure all of our families and our students that we take this very seriously, and we want to thank them for being with us, for being open about how they feel. There was no shortage of comments that we've all been reading and taking seriously, and so we appreciate them and their communication with us, and we will do better. Our board is convening a special committee that's going to be led by Trustee Ozuna, who is an engineer and former city council person, so that the board can also understand in detail how this happened and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So we do take this very seriously. We will get to the bottom of this, but we do appreciate Dr. Aquino and his accountability that he has taken in this crisis. Thank you.
That concludes our press conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
very
coming.
much.
That's a good example.